Hi, and welcome to Dimes Block of the Month. I'm PJ Wong, and I'm going to guide you through the block this month, and I'm calling this one Star. So when you look at it this way, it may not look quite like a star, but if you look at four of them put together, you definitely get a star. So this is just an image of the block, and then this is the block actually stitched out. And then here's a layout of the four blocks. So now you get your star. So something that may not be real obvious right here is that these are slightly, the star points are slightly uneven. So when you do this in a full layout, if you do multiples of this four block, you'll get something that looks like this. And you can see here, you don't have a perfect triangle in the middle. I think it adds a little bit of interest to have that not quite all lining up. So you'll have your choice to make it whichever way you want. So if you want it to be even, it's going to end up looking like this. So you've got your perfect diamonds in the center here. So this is with the star points sitting even, and then this one, which is a little bit wonky, is uneven. So I'll show you how to do both of those. All right, so we're going to set up our artwork in my block piecer, and then of course move over to my quilt embellisher to put our stippling and our other stitching in. So let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so here we are in my block piecer, and don't forget to download your free designs. I'm going to go ahead and close out this splash page, and then I'm going to open up a new sheet. So I want my grid settings to be set at 1/2 inch, and I want my snap to grid on. So that's all set up. I'm going to start by building my rectangle, and that can just be an outline. Guess it would have helped if I would have hit that grid. There we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and size this to the size that I want, and I'm going to want 7 by 7. All right, so I'm then going to just come up here to my ruler bar, right click, and say center origin. Okay, so now I'm going to start actually building my block. So I want my corner piece to be basically 3 inches on the up and on the side. So I'm just going to select a color. I'm going to select my rectangle tool again, and this time I want it to be filled. And I'm just gonna go 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. Is that right? 1, 2, 3. Yep, there we go. All right, so, and then I'm gonna go into my shape tool, and then I'm just gonna delete the one node. So now I have my corner triangle. So then I'm going to go up here and I'm going to start building my star points. So I'm going to change color again. And I am going to start with, actually, I'm going to copy this piece. I'm going to get my select tool and copy this and just say copy and paste. And I'm going to turn that colored. And then I'm just going to rotate this around. Actually, I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to, whoops, undo, and then I'm going to use my tools to rotate this. So basically what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to line this up to here. I'm kind of just cheating since I know that I'm going to basically end up with a triangle here. I'm just going to reshape this. So for the uneven, on one of these I'm going to come 5 segments down, and on the other one I'm going to do 6, and this is right at the center. So there's my one leg, and I've come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down, and then I'm just going to copy this, and I'm going to mirror. Whoops, I don't want to go that way, and I want to just rotate this way. Here we go. All right, so those will all snap into place, and then on this one I want it, because I do want this to be uneven, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I'm going to make this one move over to 6. So when you're just looking at the block this way, it really doesn't look like it's uneven, but when you see it in the layout, it definitely makes a difference. So now I'm going to go in and I'm going to build my corners. And since I have a triangle here already, I'm just going to select this triangle and then copy and reshape it to this one and to this one, and then we'll build this centerpiece. So I want this to be yet a different color. Whoops. I guess it would help if I copied and pasted it first. So copy and paste and then turn that a different color. So then I'm just going to rotate that. And I should be able to just drag that into position. I have the feeling that this is not exactly snapped in exactly where it should be. So those snap tools are really quite handy. So I strongly recommend that you use that. And maybe it's this that I don't have quite snapped into place since I drug it out there instead of actually moving the node. So if you have anything overlapped or it's not meeting when you go to try to do your workflow, you're going to run into some problems. So anytime I can use the snap, I do. So I'm going to just copy and paste this and then rotate this around. And I'm going to need to adjust this as well because remember our star points are uneven. So I'm just going to drag this up into position. And then I'm going to go back and select my first piece again and say copy paste, turn that a different color and rotate this up to this piece, and then I'm just going to reshape that. So the first thing that I need to do here is add a point to get this and then turn that into a line. So I'm just right clicking and then left clicking and dragging this down here to snap and then dragging this up to snap. Okay. So basically that's our star artwork, and then again we can go up here to that very first outline that we drew and we can just delete that. All right, now I can start playing with previewing my fabric. So I can select everything that's the yellow, and I've got everything right here. So I can either select this and hold down my control key and then click on the subsequent ones to select, or I can just come over here to my sequence bar and select that whole thing. So got all of that selected. I'm going to go into my fabrics, and again this is where you get to play. So say I want my background to be dots, there's dots, and then the piece down here, I think I have this one as my striped dots, and this, when you have stripes going down here in your center, when you rotate those blocks to make your star, you get a really fun effect. Well, I think it's a fun effect. So, all right. So we're going to leave that there. And then for our star points, I'm going to select both of those, and I made those kind of a yellowy gold color. So I think I did my scissors. Yep. So this background I think is a little bit busy, so I'm going to go ahead and choose that. And again, this is why the preview is so handy. I'm just going to make this kind of what I'm using as my standard background for this collection, and just my white on white scissors. All right, so there's all my fabrics previewed. So I'm just going to select everything now, and I'm going to come up to my workflow tool so that it can build my piecing file. I'm going to go into workflow. I'm just going to change this to 3/8, and I'm going to say auto build, and I'm going to sort my numbers and say yes. and it's going to go from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then 6. Okay, so the way that I've got it written in the instructions, it's actually going in the other direction. So I'm just going to reset that. So I'm going to close out of here, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to tell it I want it to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, just so that we can get everything to match up to your written instructions. So I'm going to go back into my workflow tool. So now you can see it's going this way, and we're this way, so we should be good to go here. And auto build and sort my numbers, and there we go. So now we're going from here up. Okay, so I'm just going to preview this, and then I'm going to save. And here I want to be in my C dime designs, and then I've made myself a folder here, 2018 block of the month, and I'm going to call this 12 star 375, and I'm just going to save that. So what it has given us is, whoops, we've got this. So we've got, let's move this over here so you can see this a little bit better. So it will give you, this is your piecing file, and then this is the artwork file that we'll need for the next step, and then the PDF file that's going to have an image of your block, an image of the piecing file, and then your step-by-steps, so that you know how to put that together. All right, so I can just close out of this now, and then we're going to move on over to my quilt embellisher. Okay, so here we are in my quilt embellisher. Again, don't forget to download your free designs. And I'm just going to open up a new page and then go over to my designs and go to my 2018 and then go to my 12. And here's my artwork. So I'm just going to left press and drag that over to my window and then center that. Okay, so if we look at the image again, every place that I've got my white, I've just done a stipple in here. Boom, boom, boom. Okay. So because when I select those, I'm going to lose my border because I'm going to just let that convert to stippling. So the first thing that I'm going to do in this case is I'm going to draw my border around. I'm going to turn my grid on so that I can follow my grid. So I'm just going to use my rectangle tool and I'm just going to draw that in. And then I'm simply going to tell that to be a run line and give that a 5. Okay. So now I can go back up here to my artwork, and the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to ungroup this so that I can just select my white pieces, and then I'm simply just going to go up here to my stippling, convert to stippling, and that will turn that artwork into stippling. And again, I'm going to want that to be a little bit bigger and maybe even 8. Okay, so you can adjust this a little bit if you want this to get closer out to your border. You have to just kind of gently nudge it out. And the same here. Oh, it's a little too far. Actually, sometimes this is better if you take off the grid and you take off your snap to grid. Sometimes oh, that's just barely over our block. Oh, it's going to be either just barely over or way under. You can also, if you're trying to do this, you can change your density as well, which sometimes will allow you to futz with that a little bit more. All right, so I'm just going to leave that. You could also just pick up the whole thing, I think, and move it ever so slightly just to get it a little bit closer. Okay, so then for my star points, I'm going to do just some echo quilting. So I'm going to select both of my star points at once. I'm going to right click and I'm going to go into utility and say create outline. I don't want my outlines united, but I do want them to the inside, and I want them to be at a 3/8 inch offset, and I want 2 of them. So there's those. I'm going to change those a different color. Make those yellow, which you'll barely be able to see. Let's try that again. I'm going to put a white color in here and make those white. And then, so this is still artwork, so I'm going to convert that to a run stitch, and I'm going to tell that I want it to be a bean and 4. And if I turn on my realistic view, you can see those a little bit better there. And then I'm going to do the same thing down here to my little corner block. So utility, create outline, 0.375. I want 2 repeats. I don't want them united, and I want to go to the inside. All right, and then once again, convert that to stitches, tell it to be a bean stitch, and then adjust your stitch length. All right, so there's everything that we need for our block. Is this? That's 5. Okay, so so I'm just going to reorder this a little bit. So we're going to go from here to there to here, and then this wants to come after my basting border. That's my stitching on my star, and then this stitching. Okay, so everything down here now, here's my basting border, and I'm going to turn that this bright yellow. Oh, wait a second, I'm going to turn these guys orange first, and then turn this the bright yellow. All right, so here's my basting border, my stippling, my echo quilting on my star points, and then my echo quilting for my center. Okay, so we're just going to save this. So I'm going to do a save as, and I'm going to call this, I'm going to get to the right folder here. So this is in my C, once again, Dime Designs 2018. And I'm just going to pick up this. This is my piecing file, and I'm just going to change the last bit of that name. And I'm going to say save to that. And then I'm going to open that piecing file. There's our piecing file. And then once again, back to our embroidery file. I'm going to pick up from my basting border and all of my stippling, and I'm going to copy that into my stitching file. Okay, and then I'm just going to save this. Oh, I'm going to show you something else here. I'm going to save this as all. Okay, so depending on your hoop size, can you see how this, if we look at our overall size here, well, this will actually fit into an 8-inch hoop. But if you really only had a 7-inch hoop and you had to stay within your boundaries, these little points are going ever so slightly outside. So what you would want to do in this case is just edit these lines. The majority of your shape is going to be correct. your cut pieces will fall just slightly outside of your lines. So I am going to ungroup all of that, and then I'm going to go in here and I'm just going to edit this, and I'm going to add a point right here and tell that to be a line point, and then I'm just going to slide this down just so that it stays within the borders. And you would do the same thing to this side as well. This is, you don't have to do this if your hoop is large enough to be able to handle this without having to make the changes. But just in case you're kind of running at the edge limits of your hoop, that's how you would fix that. So now if you had to fit this within 7 3/4, that would actually fit. So then the other thing that I'm going to do while I'm in here is I'm just going to adjust my basting border. Why do I think that something wasn't completely... Oh, I'm going to recenter this, center origin, and then I'm going to pick this up and center that. Because those edges were slightly off, your stitching would have been slightly off, so that's kind of a good thing to watch. So now I'm just going to adjust this to the other basting border. Okay, so that's everything. I'm going to just resave that. Okay, so that's everything there is for the star block. And oh, you know what? I just realized when I was in here, when I was doing my piecing files, we didn't do the cut files, but you've seen that a bazillion times before, but just in case. So we're gonna select all of this and then go up here to our cutter. And again, this should match whatever your piecing file was. So apply to that so you can see there's my 3/4 inch and here's all of my pieces. Okay, so also other thing I didn't show you is if you want this to be even, so this is 1 2 3 and this is 1 2 3 4 5. So if you do want these to be even, you just need to adjust where your points end up. So this would end up needing to be down here, and then you would need to adjust all your other artwork accordingly. So okay, all right, so let's take one more look at the block. So here is the offset design. Here it is with even. And then here is the block actually stitched out. And this is the offset one. Okay, so that's it for block number 12. We'll see you next month. Thanks.